Another Fallout 4 next-gen update. Did Bethesda finally fix all the issues and make people happy? Or did they mess up again and make everyone angry? I mean, come on, it's Bethesda. We all know the answer to this one.
These are the patch notes. They are titled Fallout 4 Next Gen Update 2 Notes. They start by saying, Fallout 4 has received a new update that adds the ability to manage your control over the game's graphic fidelity or performance. There have also been additional fixes and improvements to address some of the feedback you provided us with on the previous update. Now, the update versions are here if you want to read them yourselves. However, before we get into these patch highlights and the bug fixes, I do need to say that we should expect BGS to release even more updates for Fallout 4 over the coming weeks and months, because even after this update, there are very much still issues and bugs in Fallout 4 that need to be addressed and fixed by BGS via additional official updates. And
the idea that Bethesda actually fixes anything is kind of insane in my honest opinion. Bethesda is not known for fixing things. Bethesda is known for dropping a game that's absolutely a buggy mess, and then modders are supposed to fix it for free, because why would you pay anyone when you're a AAA studio that has an absolute rabid fan base to a degree? So they don't do it. And when they try to fix things, well, they've tried to fix Starfield, and we know how that happened. They did 4 updates in a row claiming that they fixed a bug where an asteroid follows you when you're in space. 4 times! And now the player base for Starfield is so little we don't actually know, is it really fixed? Or is it still actually bugged? Imagine fixing a bug 4 times and not getting it right.
And that both includes issues that were already present in the game before the first next-gen update, and also issues that they introduced in that first next-gen update. And the reason why I mentioned...
Leave it to Bethesda to create more bugs by trying to fix bugs. It's truly a miracle.
Mentioning this is because all that is going to do, all those updates are going to do, is just keep putting a delay on us being able to properly mod our game, at least when it comes to the current working version of Fallout 4 that's available on Steam, right? It's just going to put a delay on that. If you don't know, there is actually a new version of the Fallout 4 script extender out, though it's more intended for modders to test and update their mods to ensure that they work with the script extender and of course the game. But even that test version is also going to have to be updated to work with Next Gen Update 2, because it was designed with for Next Gen Update 1. So over the coming weeks and months, we just need to expect this back and forth of BGS releasing a new update and the script extender team updating the script extender to work with that new update. And
smart people just did not use the next gen update, because if you're using mods, like, what's the point of downloading the next gen update in the first place? Your game is already as next gen as it can be in the first place if you're modding.
And that might not stop until BGS finally decides, you know what, we're done updating the game again. We're just going to let things settle. And then hopefully that gives the script extender team some breathing room to release that quote unquote final version of the script extender that's stable at least for a good few months, right? At least for a good amount of time, that allows other modders to really update their mods and ensure everything is easily moddable and works for the latest version or that new version.
By the way, how absolutely wild this is when people don't want their game updated because it just introduces more problems. Bethesda is the only studio that does it to such a horrible degree. There are other games that, update stuff and then it breaks, it happens. But Bethesda is the only studio where longtime fans of games are like, please just don't update anything, for the love of God. It's really impressive in a bad way.
Of Fallout 4. So until that stage, the state of modding for Fallout 4 is not that great. And what I would recommend that you do, if you really want to mod your game, you need to roll back to the previous version of Fallout 4. Not to the first next-gen update, but to the one before that. Before there were any next-gen updates to the game, that's probably your best bet. So I thought I'd say that at the beginning here, but let's move on to these patch notes. So patch highlights, Xbox Series SX, or S and X, and PlayStation 5 display settings. Thanks to your feedback, we've been able to implement the ability to control your graphic fidelity and performance. We highly recommend you run with the default settings, but you can now change your options to better fit your playstyle and display. What's very interesting here is that they highly recommend you run with the default settings. Now, I don't know why that is. Like, if you don't run with the default...
Probably because the default settings are quite bad and there's no risk that people are going to have lags and whatnot.
Settings, are there going to be huge bugs or issues that you encounter? Because that's a red flag to me. That's a bit of a concern. In my eyes, if these are official settings that you pick for your game, all of them should work, right? There might be some drawbacks when it comes to frame rate. That's expected, right? Of course. But if there are any...
I mean, that should not be expected. We should not be fine with the idea that there's a game and it doesn't work on good settings, even though you have a good computer. That's very, very wrong and dumb to support things like that.
Any big bugs or issues when you do change the settings to not be the default, that's a concern, and I don't believe that should be the case. I hopefully I'm wrong, but that's what I'm reading, and that's what I'm implying when I read that line. And that really shouldn't be true, all right? Like, all settings for the game, if they're official settings, should just work, right? They should just work. Yes, drawbacks, but they should just work. So let me know in the comments below if the non-default settings of Fallout 4, especially on console, do cause major issues, because hopefully that is not the case. But anyways, frame rate target. Frame rate target allows you to choose between 30, 40, and 60. So 60 is the default, but it is important to note to select 40, your display must be able to support 120 hertz. So I think...
Oh yeah, this is the Bethesda. Oh, better buy a new computer. Oh, now better buy a new monitor. For Fallout 5, it's gonna be, well, you probably should buy a new house at this rate. Very, very low quality.
I think that's all pretty standard. Visual and performance prioritization. You can now choose between visuals and performance default while trying to maintain frame rate target. If you choose frame rate target of 60, we recommend selecting performance. Both modes may adjust internal resolution dynamically when scenes are...
So 60 FPS can only be achieved when you aim for performance, aka if you want the best visuals, you can't hit 60. This is what this is telling me.
Action get heavier, and please note both modes can only be changed from the main menu. That makes sense. I mean, even on PC, you have to back out of the game to be able to change those major settings.
That does not make sense for almost any other game. Almost any other game allows you to do it just straight up from in-game, not the main menu. This is also kind of crazy low.
Before they're actually reflected. Though, part of me was also hoping that, like with Starfield now, that we could change settings on the fly. That would be much easier. But I think that would require a massive engine overhaul, which is, of course, what they did with Starfield. And
which is what they should do for everything. I don't care how hard it is. I don't care how expensive it is. Make the games better. Very simple.
It's probably either not possible or feasible for Fallout 4 right now. Would have been nice, but that's not going to be the case. But let's look at these bug fixes. General stability improvements, fixed visual issue with certain image spaces, auto HDR is re-enabled on Xbox Series S and X. I know that was an issue, so that's good. Fixed issue where reserved space was not displayed correctly in load order menu, again on Xbox. Fixed issue with character name field when in widescreen mode, PC. Though, did this fix the issue?
Oh, that is hilarious. If you don't know how widescreen worked, the screen got wider, but nothing adjusted to the fact that it's wider. So you could see more to the sides, but the problem was your menus and everything, they were still like you were not using a widescreen monitor. It was kind of hilarious.
Issue with the stretched UI.
And then they stretched the UI, yes. It's the dumbest shit ever.
In widescreen mode? I'm not seeing it here. That's not good. That should have been the first fix. Fix an issue that occasionally caused bundles to not fully download and could cause a crash. Fix an issue with material swaps. Fix an issue with load order that would break DLC until a restart after downloading mods, specifically for PlayStation 5.
Wow.
Fix an issue that would occasionally cause a crash if you return to the main menu with queued mods still downloading. PS5 again. Fix an issue that could cause the Creation Club menu to not appear on the Microsoft Store specifically. Fix a crash that could occur when connecting to the network after a suspend/resume with the network disabled Xbox One. So that's a okay set of fixes. I think there could have been more, but Finally, with creations fixes, they fixed missing art issue with certain creations. I believe here they were referring to the makeshift weapons pack, where some of those weapons were actually invisible. And I saw people say that that has been fixed, which is good.
That was funny. That was funny. You're shooting and holding a giant exclamation mark. Pretty cool.
Let me know in the comments below if that's not the case. However, as I alluded to, this is a pretty small update. And because it's just...
I don't know about that. For Bethesda, this is like a giga update. They're probably cracking open the champagnes right now because of how much work they actually put into something. Man, when Starfield got an update this massive, they made a whole shabazzle about this. It's like Starfield 2, look at all the 5 bug fixes, it's amazing. Wow, Bethesda standards... No, seriously, the Bethesda standard for existence itself is beyond low.
Again, putting another delay to the current version or the test version of the script extender. I was hoping that they would wait until there was a bit more of a beefy update before they rolled out the update, because there haven't been that many things fixed here, right? What about, again, widescreen issues with the UI on PC?
So this is a double-edged sword. Bethesda will always do this now, it seems like, because what are they gonna do? Everyone who works at Bethesda is pretty much an incompetent dolt. Every coder is an idiot. Everyone in Bethesda seemingly is a complete idiot, honestly. So, if they don't release this much updates now, people are just gonna say, oh, Bethesda just messed up everything with the next-gen update, made it worse, broke the mods, and they didn't fix anything. Because, you know, give Bethesda 3 months to fix stuff, what are they gonna do? Instead of, how many lines is this? 6, 9, 12. Instead of 12 lines in 3 months, they would probably have, what, 17-ish lines, maybe, of fixes? And most of those fixes you wouldn't actually even care about, honestly. This is the reality of Bethesda. They're just incompetent. If they don't release a small update like this, which for them, again, is unironically like a super huge thing and accomplishment, they're probably really opening the champagne bottles for this one, because it's so massive in their eyes. People would just start saying, oh, Bethesda's just abandoning the game. Because they're incompetent. They can't fix things fast. They can't fix things good. They break more things than they fix on average. So, it's going to be a trickle of updates like this, and the modding community is just going to get more pissed and pissed probably over time. It's going to be great.
You see, what about the frame rate not being uncapped? That's still an issue with Fallout 4. You still can't play the game above 60 frames per second without it causing physics issues and other speed and timing issues. I thought that would have been included in here as well. There are a good few...
I hope Todd Howard comes on camera and says, well, the human eye can't see past 60 frames anyway, so we're not gonna go over it. I would not be surprised if Todd Howard tries to do something like that. It would be crazy, but funny.
Things that I'm surprised aren't in the next update of the game after that first initial next-gen update. So a little bit unfortunate, and I do want to also swap here to what the community has been saying about this update, because they posted all the patch notes on Twitter. It's also on Reddit as well, and I'll go through that in a second. But the first response here says, yeah, break all the mods again. Tell me you added an FOV slider and physics don't break above 60 frames per second. That's what I was just talking about. However, the FOV slider, it's another thing that I thought should be in the game and could have been something that they introduced.
Wait a minute, Fallout 4 doesn't have an FOV slider? I didn't even know that. Wow, Starfield is getting the royal treatment, huh? It only took them 3 months to add an FOV slider. Fallout 4 has been waiting for how many years? 6 years now or 7. Nice.
Just with this particular update, because it's been a long-standing concern or an issue with Fallout 4. However, when it comes to you breaking mods again, this is always expected. It's always expected whenever there's a new update for Fallout 4 that the script extender breaks, that mods break. That is, unfortunately, the...
To be fair, people are not really... I don't think people are really pissed because the mods are broken again. People are most likely, at least the majority of people who are pissed about it, is the fact that you break the mods as Bethesda, and yet there is no return. the things you fix, the things you add are just not worth it. I think that's why people are mad. If the patches were actually good, made the game better and whatnot, people would not be that mad. But considering the patches a bunch of things that no one really cares about that much except FPS, of course people are going to be mad. Because you break the mods for what? Nothing. Nothing.
Risk that we take on when modding Fallout 4. And I don't ever want to say that BGS should never be allowed to update their games just to ensure that mods always work, right? Because it is their game. If they want to be able to update their game, they have every right to do so, especially with a lot of people that don't use mods or that are on console that don't use mods. There are people that still want the game to be updated, and just because it causes issues with mods, that doesn't mean that the game should never be updated ever again, right?
I mean, that's a great point, but then you remember that, wait a minute, Bethesda did the next-gen update and broke the game just by default for a lot of people and made it worse for a lot of people. So that argument doesn't really apply. Updating the game and making it better is one thing, but Bethesda doesn't update the game and make it better. They update and make it worse in a lot of cases for people who even don't use mods.
Here's what I would prefer. Here's the solution that I would prefer, and let me know what you think. But on GOG, if you don't know, there's actually an official way for you to roll back your version of games to the previous ones, just in case the new one doesn't work or it has some issues or whatever it might be. And a lot of people were doing that on GOG, that were rolling back their version of Fallout 4. So it was before the first next-gen update, so it worked with all their mods and all that kind of stuff. And of course, that version of the script extender. What I would like to see is on console and also on Steam, is for official implementations and ways for us to roll back our games, right? Because if they allow us to do that, then if there are any issues like this, all we need to do is roll back. And if it's an official implementation...
Bro, listen, okay? Bethesda can't implement the FOV slider for 3 months. The eat button is still a wild dream in people's eyes in Starfield. You think Bethesda is competent enough to implement something that allows you to play older versions of the game? They have a better chance of creating time travel than actually doing that.
It should just work out of the box. The problem with us needing in the back end to roll back our version of Fallout 4, either through Steam or whatever else, that frequently can cause issues. We might not do it correctly, and that causes a whole bunch of other concerns when it comes to even your existing mods for the game or your existing save files. You might stuff something up, which might force you to completely, uninstall and re-download the game. However, if it's an official implementation like GOG does it, that could be a nice way for BGS to still release updates for their games while still enabling us to use older versions that are more stable, especially with mods. I think that is the best solution here, in my eyes. It lets BGS do what they want with their games, especially for console, but it still allows modders to be happy and to not, complain, and understandably so, when new versions break the script extender and their mods. Let me know what you think about that. I thought that would be a pretty good idea. But the next comment we have here is, we need DLAA and DLSS to the game, or at least update to a better TAA anti-aliasing version if possible. Look, I would love DLSS in Fallout 4.
I don't know what DLAA or any of this garbage is, but there was that thing with NVIDIA graphics cards and the performance boosting for them in Starfield, and yeah, Bethesda couldn't figure out how to do it. They couldn't figure out how to implement that in Starfield. But it got implemented because NVIDIA took care of it for Bethesda. If that's not incompetence, I don't know what is.
Don't get me wrong, but I think there are definitely bigger fish to fry when it comes to the game. Next question, does anyone know why the mod storage is limited on consoles? Is there any reason for this? I think that's just for stability, and that's always been the case, especially for PlayStation. 4 years in and people still call it next gen. Yeah, I think BGS should never have called this next gen, because it's not, especially when you compare it to other next gen versions or updates for other games.
Dude, no. When you compare the next gen version to the not next gen version, the differences are minor. That's the funny part. Yeah, that's why they shouldn't call it next gen, because there's nothing next gen about it. It still looks bad.
like Cyberpunk, this really seems limited and
Oh,
really
jeez.
doesn't seem befitting of the title next gen. But
Okay, man, these comments, what a time to be alive. They're funny though. Let's check what Reddit's doing.
on also makeshift weapon with that exclamation mark. Again, that was the issue that I was referring to, that creation. So no more.
People are complaining about the FPS. Who would have expected, and what's still bugged? Wow. Yeah, it's not like they're gonna unbag Watts. I mean, Watts has always been slightly clunky and buggy to begin with. In Fallout 4, though, in Fallout 3, it wasn't that bad. Interesting. Well, anyway, that was the Vault Wanderer, and he doesn't have a thing. He has only the Patreon. Anyway, bye-bye.